teachers have been asking about how to effectively use Canvas in their classes, and now that we are moving toward a blended learning approach, discussion boards will be one of the most commonly used tools.
So this week's Tech Tuesday will focus on effectively using discussion boards. Discussion boards can be tricky because if you don't ask the right questions or ask questions in the right way, you won't get a lot of discussion. So let's talk about what discussion boards should be. They should lead students to be more reflective in their responses, leading to more in-depth learning, allowing students to demonstrate knowledge of key concepts, and also allowing students to reflect on prior activities, and allowing for collaboration with other students, giving students a chance to voice their opinions and further engage in higher order techniques.
The key to discussion boards are developing questions that will prompt and guide interactions between students, fostering a dialogue. This is something that will take practice, so don't worry if you feel like students aren't responding at first.
It's also a good idea to show students what a good response looks like. Many students have probably not discussed topics in this way, and they will need to know how this approach works. We'll talk more about this in a minute.
One way to get started is with material students will be familiar with. So ask questions that can be answered with information from general experience or knowledge of the subject area. Then when students are more comfortable, you can ask questions about explaining relationships among units of information and forming general concepts. Then finally, move on to questions that apply concepts and principles they have developed with new data and different situations.
There are good question types that can lend themselves to facilitate thoughtful and sustained discussions. Let's look at some examples of each. The first one is cause and effect questions. So this would be looking at what are the causes or results of, or what connection is there between. An example sentence would be, what effect did the fight have on Tori's attitude towards her brother? Another type of question would be analysis questions. These would begin with why, how would you explain, what is the importance of, or what is the meaning of. Some example sentences would be, how would you use your knowledge of latitude and longitude to locate Greenland? Or, why do we call these animals mammals?
Now on to synthesis questions. Invite students to produce original ideas and solve problems that will include the words construct, design, or revise. Examples: how would your life be different if you could breathe underwater? Or, how would you assemble these items to create a windmill? For evaluation questions, these will ask students to judge the value of an idea, a work of art, or a solution to a problem, and will include the words rate, assess, or evaluate. Examples: what story did you like the best? Or, why do you think Benjamin Franklin is so famous? The evaluation category can also include compare and contrast questions. What is the difference or similarity between? Some examples of this: what are the similarities and differences between plant and animal cells? Or, if the garden was composed of students, what characteristics would be similar and different? We also encourage you to watch this YouTube video on effective discussion prompts for online discussion boards. It'll give you an overview for ineffective and effective questions and some ideas for alternatives to use for question and answer formats.
We mentioned earlier about showing students what a good response looks like. So here are two ways that you can do that. First, do a practice question as a whole class. Post your question in Canvas and then out loud discuss their responses. Then have students post their replies to the practice question just as you talked about. In this out loud discussion as a whole group, you can also include how students should respond to each other, especially if there will be varying opinions. The 15 rules of etiquette for online discussion boards could also be helpful to you.
The second way you can model good responses to students is when you create your question. For example, what story did you like the best? Include an example response under the question that you would like your students to see. You can also include in parentheses things you don't want to see either. Since we're also talking about student work and opinions being on the internet, this is also a good time to discuss internet safety. While we have a walled garden environment in Canvas, meaning anything students write is not disclosed to the public on the internet, this would be a good reminder for students that Once something is on the internet, it's always there.
That's a good idea, Chris. Well, you and I were taught about the differences between informal and formal writing before the advent of social media. Many of our students were not, and were exposed to social media before learning about these differences. It's just one of the ways that our jobs have changed in the last 10 years, and more things that we really have to talk about with students.
We hope this focus on discussion boards has been worthwhile and helped you narrow in on your how to use Canvas a little more effectively. See you for the next video.
I tricked you. You thought we were done, didn't you? I've got this great opportunity that I want to tell you about, and you can earn 30 recertification points. VDOE, with a grant from Intel, is offering free 6-week online courses to teachers in areas such as inquiry in the science classroom or collaborating in the digital classroom. The courses start on September 21st and run through November 1st. But you need to register by September 12th if you want to participate. The best part? Did I mention the 30 recertification points? There are 2 courses that caught my eye, and I think that they would be very beneficial to effectively using Canvas, and that's collaborating in the digital classroom and designing blended learning. If you're interested in either of these courses, I'm willing to set up a study group once a week where we can get together to help with questions and learn from each other. I'm going to have an interest meeting in the high school library on Thursday, September 1st at 2:30 p.m. Join us there, and hopefully we can talk about and see if we want to do a study group. If you also want to learn more and see what is involved in the courses and to register, you can visit this website.